The Hunley had 135 pounds of black powder attached just a few feet off of its bow. But when it set off its charge, the blast wave from the charge transmitted through the hull of the ship and into the crew compartment, causing fatal lung and brain injuries to the crew inside.
The H.L. Hunley earned a place in naval history and then became a steel coffin holding one of the Civil War's strangest mysteries. On February 17, 1864, the hand-powered Confederate submarine attacked the USS Housatonic outside Charleston Harbor and became the first submarine to sink an enemy warship in combat. The Hunley never returned. When researchers finally raised it more than a century later, its 8 crewmen were found largely where they had served, with no frantic rush toward the hatches and no obvious attempt to save the boat. Why would trained men remain at their stations while their submarine sank? Before we begin, tell us in the comments whether you think the crew died instantly or had time to understand what was happening. For generations, obvious explanations seemed to fall apart. New blast research offers a chilling answer to why the Hunley crew never tried to escape. A mission built around risk.
It was 48 inches high and 42 inches wide. It housed 8 men, and their job was to propel, through manpower alone, this submarine underwater.
The Hunley was a great leap forward in submarine design because for the first time, somebody came up with a submarine design that could be controlled sufficiently precisely in course and depth in order to deliver an underwater weapon to the most vulnerable part of a surface ship and sink it.
The Hunley was barely 40 feet long and about 4 feet across at its widest point. Lieutenant George Dixon commanded from the forward conning tower, while 7 men sat shoulder to shoulder, turning a long hand crank connected to the propeller. The narrow interior left little room to stand, turn around, or pass another crewman. Danger followed the submarine even before its famous mission. It sank twice during training, killing members of 2 earlier crews, including its namesake, Horace L. Hunley. Each time, the vessel was recovered and prepared to sail again. Built from iron boiler material and operated without an engine, the Hunley depended on muscle, careful trim, and calm teamwork. Dixon's crew understood they were entering a machine with almost no margin for error. The Hunley carried no self-propelled torpedo. Instead, a copper container packed with 135 pounds of black powder was mounted on a 16-foot spar extending from its bow. The plan required Dixon to drive the spar into the Housatonic's hull and trigger the charge at extremely close range. The explosion tore open the Union ship, which sank quickly and lost 5 sailors. The Hunley had accomplished something no combat submarine had done before, but its own crew disappeared during the return journey. The boat that never returned.
The Hunley is an extreme mystery because it's a unique vessel. There was no other boat or submarine like it.
Men on shore were waiting for a blue light, the prearranged signal that the mission had succeeded. Several historical accounts describe a light appearing on the water after the explosion. If those sightings were accurate, the Hunley may have survived the attack long enough for Dixon to report success. No one saw it return. The submarine settled on the seabed about 1,000 feet from the Housatonic, on the seaward side of the wreck rather than along the expected route towards shore. Its location confused searchers for generations and encouraged theories involving currents, navigation problems, and collisions. The wreck was located in 1995 and raised in 2000. Archaeologists then began the slow task of removing sediment from an interior that had remained sealed for 136 years. They expected signs of chaos, perhaps crewmen gathered around the exits, or evidence that they had struggled against flooding. Instead, the remains were found largely at assigned stations. There were no clear fractures caused by a violent collision. The aft hatch remained locked, the forward hatch was unlatched, the ballast weights had not been released, and the pumps were not set to remove water from the crew compartment. Releasing the heavy keel weights could have helped the submarine rise during an emergency. Their untouched condition made the crew's stillness even harder to explain. Whatever happened appears to have prevented an organized response. Theories that fell short.
The Hunley was a relatively simple machine as far as to dive and surface, but it was also unforgiving.
The problem, I think, with the Hunley is it had no room for pilot error. I mean, it functioned exactly how it was designed, everything worked, but if you made a mistake, you being the operator, if you left a valve open too long and flooded a ballast tank too full, any sequence of events, I think you paid with your life.
Drowning seemed like the simplest explanation. The Hunley could have developed a leak, lost control, or taken water through a damaged viewport. Yet a serious flood should have given at least some men time to operate the pumps, release ballast, or move toward a hatch. Suffocation also appeared possible. 8 men were working inside a cramped iron tube with no mechanical ventilation. However, rising carbon dioxide would have produced severe headaches, breathlessness, confusion, and growing panic before unconsciousness. Those symptoms should have created visible attempts to surface or escape. Another theory blamed the USS Canandaigua, a Union vessel that rushed to rescue survivors from the Housatonic. It may have passed near the Hunley and could have struck it. Investigators also considered gunfire, mechanical failure, entanglement, and damage from the torpedo itself. Each possibility explained part of the story, but not the silence inside the hull. The crew did not behave like men facing a gradual emergency. Their stations, pump settings, ballast system, and closed aft hatch suggested that either they never recognized the danger or they became helpless before they could react. A shock through iron.
The submarine H.L. Hunley set off a large black powder bomb, and it became the first submarine in history to sink a Union ship off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina.
Biomedical engineer Rachel Lance focused on the weapon hanging 16 feet from the Hunley's bow. Underwater explosions behave differently from blasts in open air because water carries pressure efficiently. The spar created distance, but it may not have placed the crew beyond the reach of the shockwave. Lance and her team built a 1/6 scale model nicknamed the CSS Tiny. They detonated scaled black powder charges underwater, measured the pressure outside the model, and studied how the blast traveled through its metal hull. Historical explosive data helped them connect the small tests with the full-size 1864 attack. Their proposed mechanism did not require the Hunley to rupture. The external pressure wave could make the wrought iron hull flex, producing a second pressure wave inside the crew compartment. Unlike shrapnel or a collision, this danger could remain nearly invisible after more than a century underwater. The sudden pulse would pass through the men without throwing them around or breaking their bones. Air-filled organs are especially vulnerable to a rapidly rising pressure wave. It can damage delicate lung tissue and disrupt blood vessels while leaving few signs on a skeleton. The team calculated that each crewman's chance of surviving the blast was below 16%. The men may have been killed or incapacitated almost immediately before anyone could reach a pump, ballast control, or hatch. Why no one escaped?
So this is an actual explosion. What's important to note, and this will loop several times, what's important to note about this is that this dummy is freestanding. He weighs 180 pounds, and he is in no way attached or braced against the floor. So the other thing that's very important about this clip is this dummy is in a range of exposure that has a 100% chance of lethality. So there is no surviving this blast. The blast is occurring just off screen. It's C4. You can see he's almost kissed by the fireball. And as it starts, you can even watch the shock wave pass over him. See it right there?
The blast theory explains the most disturbing evidence in one stroke. The Hunley's weapon worked exactly as intended against the Housatonic, but the same explosion may have sent a lethal pulse back through the submarine. The crew could make history and lose their lives in nearly the same instant. It also explains why excavation revealed no dramatic final struggle. Primary blast injuries attacked soft tissue, which had disappeared long before the submarine was recovered. Bones might remain unbroken, equipment could stay untouched, and the hull could appear capable of surviving even though the men inside could not. The theory is not accepted without debate. Other researchers have questioned whether hull movement from the blast was strong enough to kill the crew, and the unlatched forward hatch keeps open the possibility that Dixon acted after the explosion. The reported blue light also suggests at least brief survival, though its source and timing remain uncertain. Even with those questions, sudden blast injury fits the crew's lack of action better than a slow leak or falling air supply. The Hunley may have drifted before sinking while 8 men sat silent at their stations. They never tried to escape because the first successful submarine attack had already left them unable to do anything at all. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you believe the torpedo's blast killed the Hunley crew immediately, or does the unlatched hatch suggest at least one man survived the explosion? Let us know in the comments section below.